Be happy in every situation. In a picturesque little village nestled between rolling hills, there lived an elderly woman named Clara. Clara was loved by all for her cheerful demeanor and her habit of offering sage advice to anyone who needed it. Despite living alone in a quaint cottage, Clara never felt lonely, as the villagers often visited her, bringing fresh bread, fruits, and little gifts as tokens of gratitude for her kindness. One crisp autumn morning, Clara decided to gather firewood from the nearby forest. As the golden leaves crunched beneath her feet, she stumbled upon something peculiar, a small, ornately carved chest hidden among the roots of a large oak tree. Intrigued, Clara brushed away the dirt and lifted the lid. Inside, she found sparkling jewels, rubies, emeralds, and diamonds, gleaming like stars. Clara's heart raced. She imagined a life of ease and luxury, where she could travel to distant lands, wear beautiful gowns, and dine in grand halls. But there was a challenge. The chest was too heavy for her to carry alone. Not one to give up easily, Clara used her resourcefulness to craft a sled from fallen branches and tied the chest securely. Slowly, she began dragging it home. As she moved along the forest path, Clara noticed something odd. The jewels seemed to lose their sparkle. When she paused to examine them, she saw that they had transformed into plain stones. She felt a pang of disappointment, but consoled herself, thinking, "Even stones can be useful. I can build something sturdy with these." Clara resumed her journey, but as she trudged on, the stones crumbled into dust. A wave of despair washed over her. All her dreams of grandeur had vanished. But as she sat on a tree stump to rest, something shifted in her heart. She looked around at the serene forest, the sunlight filtering through the branches, the gentle rustling of leaves, and realized how peaceful it all was. Clara smiled to herself. She remembered her cozy home, the love of her neighbors, and the joy she found in her simple life. She realized she didn't need jewels or riches to be happy. She already had everything she needed. Feeling lighter, she left the chest where she found it and walked back home with a renewed sense of gratitude. That evening, Clara sat by her fireplace, sipping a warm cup of tea. She thought about how fleeting wealth could be and how enduring the love and kindness of her community were. Clara decided to continue living her life as she always had, helping others and sharing in the joy of simple pleasures. And so, Clara taught the village and herself that true happiness is found not in material riches but in the contentment of the heart. Her days were filled with laughter, gratitude, and the warmth of friendship, proving that a life lived with love and generosity is richer than any treasure. A few weeks after Clara's encounter with the mysterious chest in the forest, she began to notice something unusual. The villagers, who had always admired her wisdom and kindness, seemed to be visiting her more often. They shared their struggles and joys, seeking her advice and warmth. Clara realized that her simple life had become a source of inspiration for many. One winter evening, as Clara sat knitting by the fire, she heard a soft knock at her door. It was a young boy named Peter, one of the newer residents of the village. Peter looked troubled and held a small, broken toy in his hands. "Miss Clara," he said, his voice trembling, "I don't know how to fix this, and it was a gift from my mother." Clara smiled gently and invited Peter inside. She rummaged through her drawers, found some glue and thread, and together they worked on repairing the toy. As they worked, Clara shared stories from her childhood about learning to mend things instead of replacing them. By the time they were done, Peter's toy looked as good as new, and his face lit up with joy. From that day on, Clara became the village's unofficial problem solver. Whether it was mending broken tools, sharing practical advice, or simply lending an ear, she always found a way to help. Her small acts of kindness began to spread, and soon the villagers started helping each other in ways they never had before. One day, as Clara was tending her small garden, she heard a commotion outside her gate. She opened it to find a group of villagers holding baskets of fruit, bread, and even freshly chopped firewood. "We've decided to build something for you," one of the villagers said with a grin. Clara was puzzled, but allowed them to proceed. Over the next few weeks, the villagers came together to build her a beautiful wooden bench under the large oak tree in her yard. They carved intricate patterns into the wood and added a small plaque that read, "To Clara, who taught us that true riches are found in kindness and gratitude." Clara was overwhelmed with gratitude. She often sat on the bench watching children play in the fields and listening to the birds sing. Her heart swelled with joy knowing that her simple acts of love had created a ripple effect in her community. As years passed, the bench under the oak tree became a symbol of the village's unity and generosity. Travelers passing through often asked about it, and the villagers would proudly share Clara's story. Clara continued to live a life of quiet contentment, surrounded by the love and support of her neighbors. And though she never returned to the chest in the forest, she knew that the real treasure had been with her all along, the kindness she gave and the happiness it brought to others. Years passed, and Clara's simple, happy life continued to inspire those around her. One spring morning, a stranger arrived in the village, a young woman named Eliza, who carried a heavy satchel and looked weary from her travels. She had heard about Clara from a merchant who had passed through the village and was eager to meet the woman whose kindness had changed so many lives. Eliza knocked on Clara's door, and the old woman welcomed her warmly. Over a cup of tea, Eliza shared her story. She was an artist who had spent years traveling, searching for inspiration and trying to make a name for herself. Despite her efforts, she felt unfulfilled. "I've seen grand cities and beautiful landscapes," Eliza said, "but something is missing. People chase fame and wealth, yet they seem so unhappy. I thought coming here might help me understand what I truly need." Clara listened carefully, her serene smile never wavering. "Eliza," she said softly, "you've already found what you're looking for. It's not about what you see or where you go. True fulfillment comes from what you give, whether it's love, kindness, or a piece of yourself through your art." Moved by Clara's words, Eliza decided to stay in the village for a while. She spent her days painting the simple beauty of village life, the laughter of children, the warmth of the oak tree bench, and Clara sitting by her fireplace. Her paintings captured not just scenes but emotions, and soon, travelers passing through began to notice. One day, a wealthy art collector arrived, intrigued by the stories of Eliza's work. He purchased several of her paintings and insisted on displaying them in a prominent gallery in the city. When Eliza hesitated, unsure if her work was worthy, Clara gently reassured her. "Your art carries the spirit of this village," Clara said. "Let it remind the world that happiness is found in the simplest of moments." Eliza's paintings became a sensation, admired for their depth and honesty. People from far and wide began visiting the village, not only to see the place that inspired her work, but to meet Clara herself. Many sought her wisdom, and Clara welcomed them all with open arms. One visitor, a wealthy merchant, offered Clara a large sum of money to buy the oak tree bench and the plaque beneath it. Clara smiled politely and declined. "This bench isn't mine to sell," she said. "It belongs to the love and unity of this village." As the years rolled on, the little village transformed into a beacon of hope and simplicity. People came not for luxury or entertainment, but for the lessons Clara had taught. Lessons about gratitude, kindness, and the richness of a content heart. Clara lived to see her village thrive in ways she had never imagined. And when her time came, the villagers honored her legacy by planting more oak trees around the bench, creating a peaceful grove. They called it Clara's Haven, a place where people could sit, reflect, and remember that true wealth lies in love, generosity, and the beauty of a simple life. Even long after Clara was gone, her wisdom continued to touch lives, proving that one kind heart could change the world.